What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk to you guys about Warhammer 40k. So in the past couple of weeks, the Warhammer community folks have been giving us bits and inklings of information within the confines of the Death Guard Codex. And that's for a few reasons. One, they do that already, and two, they decided to give us more because due to COVID and shipping and whatnot, the release of the Codex got pushed back to January. So unfortunately, if you were gonna get this book as like a Christmas gift, or you were gonna gift this book to somebody else, you have to wait till after the holidays, and it sucks. Because the Death Guard were a pretty interesting army that was going to have a few changes coming for them. More specifically, it seemed that Defilers and Demon Engines were going to get better. We've got the freaking Primarch Mortarion within the Tome of the Death Guard. So it sucks that we have to wait a little bit more to get all that information, but they've been giving us some rules to kind of quell our uncontent. Damn you, Nurgle, why would you do this to your own sons? But anyway, it is what it is. I mean, by this point in time, we can't do anything about COVID. We're gonna see lock-ins and things shutting down, and it's just normal to see things get pushed back, or we can't do anything about it. So instead of moaning about it, let's go ahead and look through the new rules that were released for the Codex Death Guard. But before we do that, I just want to say two things. One, I already covered Mortarion and all the things that he's got going for himself, because we were lucky enough to be showcased his entire rules and stat line. So I'm going to link that video at the end so you guys can check it out. And also, if you want to check everything out for yourselves, I will be posting links to the Warhammer community page so you guys can check out all the rules on your own time. But for now, let's dive into these disgustingly resilient rules for the Death Guard. So let's begin with the Contagions of Nurgle, which is if every unit in your army has the Death Guard keyword, excluding unaligned units, this unit gains the following ability: Nurgle's Gift. When an enemy unit is within contagion range of this unit, you subtract 1 from the toughness characteristics of models in that unit. Now this range varies from 1 inch to 3 inch to 6 inch to 9 inch, and depending on how far or how close the enemy is to that unit, the effect varies slightly. So the range will change depending on the battle round. So on the first battle round, the contagion range is only 1 inch. For 2, it's 3 inches. Battle round 3, it exceeds up to 6 inches. And 4 and 5, that contagion range is 9 inch. So basically, think of it as your units of Nurgle are finally starting to spread their poxes. Obviously, it's not just going to spread out vastly. It's going to take some time for that disease, that smell, that putridness to basically come out of that model. So, of course, in turn 1, you're probably not going to see this used again, or at all, really, because how many times are you within 1 inch of an enemy on the first battle round? This is probably going to take effect around turn maybe 2 or 3, but more specifically 4 and 5, and by then that contagion range has spread to either 6 inches or 9 inches, and that's pretty good, because by then you're probably stuck into close combat, and that -1 to the toughness will come in handy, especially if you're going up against high toughness models. Maybe you could bring it down so that you're now wounding on 2s instead of 3s. So overall, it's a very nifty ability, and I can't wait to see how this changes the game. This for sure is an ability that Mortarion has, but I don't think that -1 toughness really makes too much of a difference, but again, we'll have to wait and see. A tactic that you really should do is get a unit that can deep strike or move really quickly and just run as fast as you can towards the enemy. So that way, when they're within range, their toughness will degrade, and now you can have like las cannons or any long range weapon shooting from afar get the benefit of having their armor weakened. This could be used with Mythic Blight Haulers, Folded Bloat Drones, and even Mortarion himself. And the cool thing about this ability is that certain models may have a modifier to it. So for example, you've got the Miasmic Malignifier, who when you set it up, it always counts as being in turn 4. So that aura of -1 toughness is automatically at 9 inches. Like, you don't have to wait for it to be turn 4, it just has it right off the bat. So that's a pretty interesting ability, and it really makes you think about what kind of playstyle you want. Do you want the opponent to rush at you? So then you set this up a little bit closer to the enemy. That way they have to run through that bubble of -1 toughness before they get to your lines. So overall, it's a really awesome ability, and I like it. Next up, we have Disgustingly Resilient. And this means that each time an attack is allocated to a model within this unit, you subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of that attack to a minimum of 1. So this has changed, and in my opinion, I think it's improved, because now anytime your models take damage, it's going to be subtracted, so they're going to be even more resilient. They usually have toughness 5, feel no pains. It's going to take a long time to whittle down the forces of Nurgle. And this is great because, as we've been seeing with Marines, their wounds have increased from 1 to 2, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be across the board, so not just Imperial or Loyalist Space Marines, but also the Chaotic Marines. So whether you're playing Thousand Suns or some other Chaos Warband, you're still going to be getting that bump from 1 wound to 2, and that's great. So now you're going to need a weapon that deals 3 damage to outright take out a regular Plague Marine. If it's a Terminator, you're going to need 4 damage because now they've got 3 wounds. So it's something that really is going to be shaking the board and making these types of armies much more difficult to remove. So 9th edition is all about taking objectives, and this works perfectly well with that type of playstyle. Another ability that you could see within the confines of Codex Death Guard is Remorseless. And what this does is that each time that a combat attrition test is taken for this unit, you ignore any and all modifiers. So that's really good because, again, it's that theme of keeping your Death Guard on the board longer. So if they fail morale or anything like that, this is going to be harder to remove models. Really good because, again, toughness 5, multiple wounds, it's going to be almost impossible to just remove a unit with just 1 volley. It's doable, but it's going to be really hard. The next ability is one that most people by now are familiar with, and that's called Deadly Pathogens, because we tend to experience that each and every day. But what this does is that you can upgrade a plague weapon by one of your characters to add 1 to the strength. But on top of that, you can add Vicious Death, which means that each time you roll to determine the number of attacks with this weapon, you get to re-roll the result. So that's pretty cool when it comes to weapons. And speaking of weapons, just to remind you guys, a plague weapon is a weapon that each time you attack, you get to re-roll wound rolls of 1. It's a nice little benefit. Basically what that means lore-wise is that you've got like a sword mixed with some toxic slime or some pus, or maybe you coughed on it and now it's got the virus, the Ronies. Now every time you try to attack your enemy, you attack them, but there's a better chance of, even though the damage not doing what it needs to the first time, gives you a second chance to maybe they get infected afterwards, which is really cool. Now if you want to go in close and just take out the enemy with some virulent viruses, the Twin Plague Spewer is a weapon that might be to your liking. So essentially it's kind of like a flamer. It's got a 12-inch range, its type is heavy 2d6, strength 5, AP -1 with 1 damage, but since it's a plague weapon, you get to automatically reroll wounds of 1, and each time an attack is made with this weapon, it automatically hits. So think of it as a flamer that instead of shooting fire, it shoots, I don't know, a virus or something like that. So this could be very devastating up close, softening up your enemies for that charge. And then finally, we come to the last rule that has been previewed to us, and that is inexorable advance. A unit counts as having remained stationary if it did not fall back or advance in your previous movement phases. If this unit has the vehicle keyword, it does not suffer the penalty for its hits when firing heavy weapons at enemy units within engagement range of it. And if this unit has the infantry keyword, it ignores any and all modifiers to its move characteristic, advance rolls, and charge rolls. Really good, because this is basically what you want to be doing with your army. Moving ever slowly, ever closer to the enemy, staying back at key points, taking objectives, but still having the bulk of your movement not hinder your weapons being fired. Really great, really awesome ability. It plays in so well with the playstyle of the Death Guard, and all in all, it's really great, especially if you have vehicles, because vehicles can shoot without penalty, except if they're stuck within combat. Now, that's not a thing. You get to ignore the -1 modifier when firing heavy weapons in combat, which is great. Defiler's got a huge boost. My Fettic Blight Haulers are boosted. So all in all, really, really great, especially for like Mauler Fiends. Well, no, not so much Mauler Fiends, because their weapons aren't heavy. Forge Fiends, I guess. But all in all, it's a really great ability to just keep your enemies moving forward without having these modifiers hinder them. And that's what we have previewed so far for the Death Guard army. In your opinion, what do you think about these rules? I know a few of them were changed or tweaked to make better sense within 9th edition, and we do have a player within our play group that plays Death Guard. He hasn't played them in a very, very long time, so maybe with the introduction of this new Codex, he can finally bust them out and have an interesting army that he can have fun playing, because that was his excuse the first time. He said they're too slow, they're durable, but not durable enough because it's hindered by their speed. By the time I'm up close, like, most of the units are already dead and their effectiveness goes down. So maybe with all these rules to make them more resilient, make them a little bit faster, he then gets what he wants. And it seems like that's exactly what he needs. So, in your opinion, what do you think about these rule changes? What do you think about all these awesome abilities? Are they lore friendly? Are they changing the game too much? And all in all, will you be picking up this book? And that's all I got for today, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. This has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you then. Peace.